Hello everyone. Good evening, Sky Divas. Excuse my appearance, but again, welcome to my channel. I am currently on an overnight. Today is day 3 of 4. It is like 7 degrees outside, and I came in and I immediately put on my long pajamas, took my wig off, threw on my silk scalp because my hair is braided down, so I didn't want to be looking like Queen Latifah and set it off in my video. So I put on my silk bonnet, but I just want to do a little quick video and talk about my experience for my IOE and my first trip after my IOE, my strap with the Hanoi, and to give you a little advice. You can take it or leave it, do as you please. It's just simply um, my advice. Nothing is set in stone. Okay, so you finish training, you get scheduled for IOE. How you prepare for your IOE. This is just strictly, again, my advice, only my personal opinion. You can probably get another opinion from someone else. It's just completely my opinion. So what I did is I looked at my trip sheet that they sent me, saw what aircraft I was going to be on, saw where I was flying to, and I immediately got out my phases of flight to review the phases of flight for that particular aircraft. Mine was on the 175, and I think it was a 4-day trip, and I wasn't going anywhere where it was going to be super cold because this was like in June. So I packed accordingly for the aircraft and for my 4-day trip. They tell you in training that if your IOE is on the 200 to not overpack because the bag has to be completely like flat to fit in the overhead bin on the 200 and the 700. And if it's stuffed, it won't fit. And what you'll have to do is gate check it along with the passengers. But you have to remember, even with the tag that said do not touch or do not remove, the baggage handlers take all bags from underneath and they put them in the jet bridge, and you have to know and remember to go down and get your bag and say put this back under, this is going with the crew. Or if you're swapping planes, to go and get your bag, when you leave. So that's one thing, is to pack according to your plane. Practice and rehearse your phases of flight. Read over your service agreement. Of course, then this was pre-COVID. Service was totally different. There was a lot more to learn. Now it's completely different. So still read it. You need to know. And also practice your announcements. The mistake that I made on the 200 is that I was so nervous, I was so scared. I had 50 people staring at me. It's my first trip after my IOE, and I was rushing through my announcements like I had 30 seconds to complete it. Take your time. You have time to do your announcements. Breathe and don't rush through it. You want people to be able to understand. So please articulate and enunciate your words and don't rush. Also, if you are the aft on any one of your trips and you have a forward and you're responsible for the announcements, don't speed through your announcements like Speedy Gonzalez, because the forward is up there doing a demonstration and people need to hear you and understand what you're saying. So take that into consideration, please. Um, Look at your trip sheet. Check out your aircraft. Check out where you're overnighting. Look at how many hours you're going to have for a sit if you're sitting any somewhere else. When you're leaving, what time you're going to end. All that you want to look at. The weather in all the cities that you're overnighting in so you can know how to pack. And read the announcements and everything. Okay, so look at your trip sheet, you do your pre-flight. This what worked for me as far as when I first started and doing my pre-flight. So if it's a regular day, no rush, it's just a normal regular operation day, I would arrive at the plane at my check-in time. If I could get there earlier, I'd get there earlier if the plane was there. You'll learn how to log in to your trip sheet and click your flight and see if your plane is already there at the gate. That way, you know, if you want to go early, you can go early and get on the plane, or you'll be able to see if it's en route. And it also will prepare you for having to rush and having to have a quick turn, knowing that you got like seconds to get everything done. And off record, guys, if it sounds like I'm slurring my speech, I apologize. I have these Invisalign in, so I apologize for that. So on a regular day, get there. This is what I do. Even to this day, this works for me. This is what I do. So if it's a um, regular day, for instance, I'm on the 200, so I'm by myself, right? So I have my bag. You have to put your bags in certain areas in the on the plane. So I get on the plane. If the pilots are already on the plane, the lights are already on, I get in, I know I have to put my bag in the back. So I automatically flip on the emergency lights on the flight attendant panel because I'm going to the back. And I go to the back, throw my bags up in the overhead bin, and I immediately start pre-flighting the back of the plane because I'm already back there. It only takes a second. It's nothing like people say, well, you can't have your emergency lights on that long. Those lights are not on, not even a minute, because once you get into the groove of pre-flighting, it's not going to take you that long. So I start in the very back because I'm already back there. I got my bag up. I'm checking my laboratory, everything in my lab, flushing the toilet, checking in where the napkins and everything go, checking underneath for the fire extinguisher, checking the sink and everything, checking for all your emergency equipment that goes in the back of the plane. Then as I'm walking forward, I'm looking in the back of the seats for the passenger safety cards, right? Get to the exit row, you check in the exit row lifelines and everything. At the same time, you're checking the lights as you're right there at the exit row. Go on to the front of the aircraft and then turn the lights back off. Now I'm at the front of the aircraft. I already done my back. So now I'm doing my front. So for me, what works for me is I start at the main cabin door because you have to check the pins on the 200. So I start at the door, and the main cabin door is this way. So I start from my right, going clockwise all around until I get to where I need to get to, which would be overhead bin right if you're facing the aft, right? So I'm going like this all the way until I'm back this way. And I'm checking the door, then you move over to the flight attendant panel, all the equipment, all the intercom, the lights, everything over here that you need to pre-flight, and then you move way to your flight attendant jump seat, and then you move to the galley, everything in the galley, just, you know, they're just supposed to pre-flight in the galley, the carts and the potable water and all that. The galley door, you can just look in and see if, like, you know, make sure that pin is secure. And now I'm facing back towards the cabin, the main cabin, and overhead bin right is where we have emergency equipment right here. So then I'm checking all that equipment right there. I'm done, I'm ready to go. So pre-flight is done. I still should have time because I'm there at the plane, you know, in enough time. So now I'm organizing my galley, which works for me. So contrary to what you believe, like when we were in training and you do your little service day and then we're on the cabin trainers, and you think when you get on the plane, everything in your mind is, you're going to be picturing everything you saw in training and everything you did in training. When you finally get on one of those aircraft, it's nothing like you envisioned it. Every plane that you get on is different, it's set up differently, some type of way. And so I don't want to be looking for stuff. I need to be able to get up and bam, 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 and do what I need to do. So I organize my galley how I needed to be organized for me to be able to work efficiently and not looking for stuff. So while um, I get my pallets, their water, and their garbage bag, and now I'm working on my galley. I'm opening up everything. Oh, you want to open up every compartment. You want to see what's what. You want to check the trash bag in the trash can. I double my trash bags. I always put another one in there. I check my catering to make sure my provisions are there and what I have, for my flight. If catering hasn't come, look at the time and see if they're running late, if they're supposed to be there. Let your captain know if they haven't come yet. Checking your potable water. Well, you do that during pre-flight anyway. Where my trash bags are, where my cups. You know, I'm organizing my galley for me. Depending on what the time of the day is. Is it service? Are they getting coffee and tea? If they're getting coffee, and then I'll automatically take my coffee bag out, put it in the coffee thing, so that when I get up from my jump seat after we take off, then I'm just gonna hit brew and warm, and I'm ready to go. Um, so my galley is organized. It's ready to go for me. Now, if I move anything that is typically normally not supposed to be there, I make sure before we land that that's part of my landing duties after I do my safety checks and everything, and then I put everything back in the galley where it should go if I moved anything around. That way I set my galley up for the next flight attendant who's coming on board. It's nothing worse than being a new hire and not knowing how you're supposed to leave your galley. And then you get off your plane because you're doing a plane swap, and get in the habit of checking to make sure that when you're swapping planes, that if that plane that you're getting off of is going somewhere else right after you, or if it's going to the hangar. That way you'll know how to prepare your galley. But the quickest way you're going to learn is that you're going to get off the plane and you're going to go on to your next trip, and then the next day you're going to be getting an email or a call from your supervisor because somebody complained on you because they took over your plane and you left your plane a mess and not cleaned or what have you. So you want to make sure you organize and set your galley back up and the carts back up for the next flight attendant to be successful when she gets on, and not have to go over and redo stuff. Because sometimes you have 40-50 minute flights that are over, on United I'm talking about, that are over 300 miles that calls for service, right? And so you got a time in your head. Okay, so when I get in my jump seat, I have to be in here 10 minutes before I can get up, and I gotta say these announcements. So that's taking, if it's a 40-minute flight, so now you have 30 minutes. Well, just think about it. Now, 20 minutes of the 30 minutes is your pre-landing duties, right? So you really don't have that long to do what you need to do. And according to United service policy, anything over $2.99 requires service. Right now it's easy, it's just drinks, that's it, and you give everybody a can. But the way your cart is set up is that you have a drawer in the front that you can put ice or your coffee mix and stuff in. You have the 2 soda drawers, and you have a bucket of water at the bottom. Well, that's not, if you have 50 passengers on board, that is not enough soda possibly. Well, you have another, Lord, I'm trying to say container, Atlas, that has sodas in it. So what I do is I put my ice in the top drawer. I put 4 soda drawers, and then I have water. And that way I don't have to be going back and forth. And then I go do my service, and I come back, and then I restock my drawers, my soda drawers for the next flight attendant. And then I put everything back, where I took it from. So that's how I do it. Now, if you're on the 700 or the 900 or the URJ and you're forward and that's your IOE, you're going to be working with a lead, and you're going to be in the forward position. So I would say review all your pre-flight information for that aircraft, write down notes or questions you may have, and ask questions, as many questions as you can. The leads are not there to see you fail or make you fail. They want to see you succeed. But by all means, because it has happened on rare occasions that people did not feel comfortable with their leads, don't feel just because you are new within the company that if you're having an issue and it's not, you feel like it's not going to be successful because of whatever your issue is with that lead, please reach out to the lead supervisor and let someone know what's going on. Don't feel as if you can't do that, that you don't have any support, because it's not true. For the most part, the leads are wonderful. They'll be there to help you out, but on rare occasions, there have been instances. So I don't want to say that to freak you out, but I don't want to mislead you either. But just know that you have a voice and that you just need to let somebody know what's going on and possibly take you off of that one and reschedule you for another one. Don't go through that, because it's only going to stress you out even more. And I don't want you to fail, and you don't want to fail. The company does not want you to fail. Sometimes people's personalities just do not clash. Sometimes you may need more instruction or more verbal instruction, and that person is not equipped to deal with your learning style. It happens. There's nothing wrong with that. So just feel like you should be able to say something to somebody, and don't be discouraged. Please reach out and say something to somebody in the training center. What else? Okay, so usually when you get there, your lead will go over your compliance, make sure you have everything you need to be compliant for the day. Um, and then if it's a normal day, you'll go on board, put your things up. He or she will make sure you're having a good seat where you can watch them and you can see how they do their pre-flight and their phases of flight. And this is your opportunity to take notes. Once she finishes what she's supposed to do, she'll probably call you up to the galley and like, okay, this is this and this and this and this and this. Okay, so your lead is going to show you everything that you need to know so that you won't break any bars, so that you can be successful. When you get out on the line finally on your own, you don't necessarily have to do every single thing that lead did in that order. As long as you're not breaking any bars, then it's good. So I don't want you to come off of your IOE and then you go work with someone and this person does something a little differently and you're like, well, my IOE instructor said, well, she didn't do it that way. She told me I had to do it this way. They're going to show you the way that they do it. Once you get on the line, you're going to do how you need to do it. You may incorporate how they do things. It may work for you, but eventually you're going to find your own rhythm and you're going to find what works best for you. As long as you're not breaking any bars, it doesn't matter how you pre-flight and what order you pre-flight once you're on the line. And for your IOE, you want to do it right, and they're going to probably start from the front to the back. If you're on the 200, if you're on the 7 or 9 on the ERJ, you're just going to pre-flight the front, right? But when you get on the line on your own and you're going to work on that day, you can pre-flight however you want to pre-flight, as long as you do it, as long as it's done and you don't forget. And if you forget something safety related, you need to write an ASAP report about it to cover yourself. Your lead may do service one way, and then you may work with another flight attendant who does service another way. There's no wrong or right way so long as it gets done. And it's okay for you to do it your way and to do whatever makes your workflow work for you. So you don't always have to question what somebody else is doing. As long as you're updating your EBAT and reading your memos and you know what's what, then you're good. But I'm not going to sugarcoat, I'm not going to front. There were times that I've worked with people who were fresh off their IOE who questioned or had something to say about how I did something, because this is how they were showed, this is how they were taught, this is what somebody told them. And I'm like, well, did you read it in policy? And like, no, such and such told me. I was like, well, see, you can't argue policy. You can argue what somebody told you. So even if I'm telling you to do something, you should always go and look and read it in black and white for yourself. Don't just go on what someone tells you alone, because of just that. In one particular situation, I was right. But since that person didn't bother to look at the memo and just relied on what someone told her, she didn't know. And it happens a lot, and I get it because I understand, because after my IOE and I'm new and this is what I was told and I'm new and I'm fresh and I'm only 3 years, so I'm still a peon too now. So that's why I can tell you what happened to me in my personal experiences, because I'm still fresh. Um, you thinking one thing because this is what you know, and in your mind it's like a robot, and like this is like this is what I'm gonna do, and you're not gonna go outside of this because this is what you're used to. And then you'll eventually get lax, and you'll get your rhythm, and you'll get your flow, and then you'll start doing what works for you. So if you see someone doing something that you don't think is appropriate or incorrect or not policy, I would say go and find it in your manual first and read it for yourself before you go up to that person telling them what they're not doing, and they're not doing something right, or writing reports on that person because you felt like they were doing something incorrectly before. And there's nothing wrong with asking either, but always refer to your manual if you're not sure about something, or if you feel like someone is doing some, doing anything or whatever. Because if it's not breaking a FAR, you know, let them serve how they want to serve. They're not breaking any rules, right? Um, what else? IOEs. Try to relax. I know it's super, super, super hard. Super, super, super hard. And I'm going to be real transparent and honest about my IOE experience. And I will say this because it's true and I'm not lying. And this is not to take away from anything from the instructor, because I'm sure she's a wonderful person, been with the company, and I have nothing really, I don't know her personally. I'm sure she's great. Just my experience with her on my IOE was not great. It actually made me cry, and not cry for because I felt like I was failing, but cry because I was angry, and because I was mad, and because I felt like I had sacrificed and gave up so much for this opportunity. I felt that I was going to fail my IOE because me and my instructor were just bumping heads. And I don't think it was personal towards me. I think that was just her teaching style with me that week. I don't know if that's how she teaches across the board. I can only speak of my experience. And my learning style and her teaching style was just like, it just did not go well at all. And I got to the point to where we had a long sit, and I was just not feeling it. And I was like at the point to where I actually wanted to just say, forget it. I'm going home, because I'm gonna end up fired the way my mouth is set up. So I walked away. I called one of my best friends, and I just started screaming and just going off. And she calmed me down. I had to get it out. I had to say what I had to say, tell her what was going on. She calmed me down. I relaxed. Woosah. And I thought, okay, this is a grown woman. I'm a grown woman. I'm going to go have a grown adult conversation. And I went and found her, and I was like, hey, can we talk? And I expressed to her how I felt about my experience and what was going on. And we talked, and we both said what we had to say. And then going forward from the rest of that trip, it was much, 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 much better. And she gave me my space that I needed. I just felt like at times she was just like in my neck. And a lot of our trip were MSTs. It was like quick turnaround. So you didn't have time to think. You didn't have time to pull out your ePad and sometimes instructors will go, well, what did your notes say? Well, I don't have time to go through 15 pages of notes right now because we're boarding. The captain is calling. We have to get the door closed. I can't go through my notes. I'm asking you, you're standing right here. Just give me the answer real quick. Let me make a mental note of it. When things slow down, then I can go back and revisit it and then write it down or what have you. And then it was, they didn't teach all that in training. You should know that. They didn't teach all that in training. You should know that. Well, if once you go through service training, it was like one day for like that. All those different scenarios you don't go through in training. So no, I don't know it. That was how I felt. And but once we spoke adult to adult, woman to woman, we were able to get through the rest of it, and she gave me the space that I needed to do what I needed to do. And I passed. Of course, I'm still here, but that was my experience. And maybe I needed that experience. I don't know, but that's what happened, to me. Not all experiences are great, and some people have wonderful, wonderful experience. You hear them talk about it all the time. Oh, and that's so awesome. That's great. I love it. But for me, that just was not the case. But I made it through, and I'm saying that because I don't want anyone to have to go through that and then feel like they have to give up. Because you don't. Just, do what you got to do. But read your manual. Things are a lot easier now because of COVID, but you'll want to be prepared for when we go back to full service, because that first time you get on that flight and that plane by yourself, it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Where is this device? I don't know how to log in. She said this, what is this? Whatever. It'll come to you. Trust me, it will come to you. It will, all of a sudden, it will just be so natural. It'll just be like a flow. It's going to take a minute to get to that point. So, my advice again is get your trip sheet for your IOE, read your announcements, go over your phases of flight, look at the aircraft you're going to be on, look at the service for the aircraft you're going to be on, look at the times that you're taking off and landing and time and days, so you can kind of like make a note on your trip sheet. Okay, this flight is service, this flight is no service, this flight is a goodie bag, and this flight is just water, this flight is coffee, and this flight is nothing. And that way you have your little notes. We're not doing pre-departure drinks or anything like that, so you don't have to stop people from boarding so you can go serve some drinks. You don't have to do that yet. But just keep reading your memos and your updates, because if you got your eval right now, you see that thing is going off like every other day with an update. So just read your updates. That just irks me when updates come out and it's available, and then you see 1,000 questions posted about it. What is this and why is this? I'm like, it was in the update. But a lot of people don't read their updates. Read your updates. It will save your life. It will be your saving grace if you just read your updates. Yes, it's a lot, but just read your updates. Then when you get after your IOE and when you pass, because I know you're going to pass, crew support is going to build your schedule, because you probably won't be able to bid the first month. So when you get your reserve schedule and you're in your base for your reserve schedule, when they call you, if they don't already put something on your schedule in advance, then you can't look at it. You don't know where you're going, what plane you're going to be on, and all this stuff. If they give you something in advance, then that helps because you have time to look over everything. But if they call you 4 o'clock in the morning, tell you got 2 hours to get to the airport, as soon as you hang up with them, you log in to your schedule, look at your trip sheet, see where you're going. Make a mental note, screenshot or something, so you can know how to pack, so you can know if you're going to have service or not, and so you can kind of start visualizing your pre-flight when you get on the plane. Look at your flow board, see where your plane is, see if it's there, see if it's delayed, or not, so you can know when you get to the airport if your plane is already there or not. To see if it's running late, if it's delayed, if you know that when as soon as the crew comes out, you're going to have to get on, you're going to have to be moving like that to get everything done. Mentally prepare yourself for what you're going to have to do that day. If you are the aft, your forward is going to help you as much as they can, and they're going to be there to answer any questions that you have or what have you. If you are forward and you have a aft that is senior to you, they'll help you too. Just ask. Just ask any questions that you need to ask. Reach out to someone who may have been mentoring you or may have been talking you through, because I've gotten plenty of phone calls from the plane, text messages, inboxes. Hey, where is this at? Or what I do with this, whatever. Somebody will tell you what it is you need to do. So don't feel like you can't do that. You have a ton of support within the company, and the pages that we have. Anyone can answer any question for you. Just make sure that you're prepared and you're ready to go, and you've read your manual. No one knows what's in that whole entire manual, right? I mean, we have to go and look for it. There's things that are happening. I'm like, what? I'm just now, almost 3 years in, and I just now got to the point to where I can open my manual and know where to go in the menus to find certain things if I'm not sure about, okay, the baby extra oxygen mask is on what side of the aircraft, because we have the 200, we have the 7, we have the 700, and we have 2 900s, right? I'm like, I can't remember. So then I know to get my EPAD, I know where to go straight to find the answer. Where prior to, it would take me forever to try to locate what I'm looking for because I didn't know where everything was at. But now I've gotten to the point to where I can go and find it, so I don't have to be calling anybody, asking anybody a question, unless it's just I'm overlooking it and I just can't see it. Trust me, I still ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, but the difference is when I ask you a question, if you can't tell me where it's at in the manual, I'm going to listen to you now, but then when I sit down and get my manual, I need to go and find it. I need to be able to read it in black and white, because you cannot argue policy. Somebody call you, a supervisor, say, such and such said this and this and this and that, what for? And you're like, well, such and such told me. Well, what does that mean? Did you read it? Is it in policy? So you can argue what somebody told you, but you can't argue policy. So don't be afraid to ask questions and read your manual. Let's see what else about training. If you need to transfer, as soon as you finish your IOE, put in your transfer request to wherever you want to go. Don't be afraid to put your first choice. I don't care how senior it is. I don't care if no one's been transferred there in 12 years. Put your first choice always, every month, until you get it, because this industry changes monthly and you never know what's going to happen. So always put it, no matter what, make it your first choice until you get what you want to get. PBS, there's a page on Facebook dedicated for us for PBS with a plethora of information, and everyone is on there is always so helpful, and you will get a lot of your questions answered on how to bid when you first get ready to bid for the first time. What a lot of people make mistake is, a lot of my class members did too, is that we were reserves, but we didn't know how to bid, and we were bidding as if we were line holders. And then when we get our schedule, like, why I didn't get the days I wanted off? It's because we were bidding wrong. And when you're a reserve, you only get to bid for your days off, and if you want to be on AM reserve or PM reserve. All that other stuff doesn't matter, it's irrelevant. Depending on your seniority and where you're at, and so you want to pay attention to that also, is ask questions about bidding so you can learn how to bid correctly. What else? Transfer, bidding, IOE, pre-flight. Yeah. So when you do your IOE, you have to say your pre-flight out loud like we did in training. That is standard that you have to do. But now when I pre-flight, I don't say anything out loud. I just know what I'm looking for. That's why it doesn't take me that long, because we don't hold up boarding for pre-flight. I've literally been called last minute to come take over a plane on reserve because flight attendant was sick, and they had to give me my 2 hour, and so of course everybody's waiting on me to show up, and I'm running down and walking up to the gate, and everybody's like, "Oh, there's a flight attendant," and the gate agent's like, "You ready to board?" And I got my bag in my hand. I haven't even made it through the gate yet, and I'm like, "Send them down." And you literally run on a plane and put your stuff up and start doing your pre-flight. You can do that. You just hold them off at the door if they get down to the door before you get back up to your spot, and you pre-flight your back, and then you can let them board while you're in the front, and you can always pre-flight your front while they're boarding. And if something's broken and messed up, then you let the captain know. But you can do that while they're boarding. You have to multitask. You can greet, hand out sanitizers, and pre-flight all at the same time. And if you're a mother and you have kids, you know what that's like to juggle and do multiple things at the same time. It can be done. That way you can get your door closed on time and won't take a delay. Well, you're already delayed in that instance, but there's going to be times where you have a few minutes to get this door closed and you're trying to do everything at the same time, and you can do it. Certain things you can do with passengers on board, so don't worry about that. You don't want to hold off boarding because you haven't finished your safety checks. Hold them off at the door. Don't let them on. Then you can let them on, and then some things you can just finish while they're boarding. With that being said, good luck everyone who are either on their IOEs or about to do their IOEs right now. I can't wait for you to join and get on the line. I wish y'all were coming to Houston because I need my seniority to move up so I can get off reserve, you know. Oh, one more thing, because this is already 37 minutes. Technically, you're not supposed to commute your first year. The company says no commuting your first year, and that's for a reason, because we have a high turnover and we lose a lot of people try to commute and go home their first year. Your schedule is about to be crazy for the first couple of months. You're not going to even know what days you're working, if you're going to be able to come home, or any of that. I always recommend you sitting down with your family, your loved ones, your boyfriend, significant other, partner, whoever, and letting them know that there's a level of uncertainty that you're about to go through, and you need their support. There were times where I was missing my kids, and I was thinking about that I make the right decision. And thankfully, I made it through that year of probation. But there's a lot of people who don't because they can't adjust. So there's no commuting your first year, but you can go home on your days off. There's a difference. Okay, so I was telling someone earlier today, it is a job to commute. It's like chemistry. You have to like look up stuff. So like, okay, I'm working Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I have Thursday, Friday, Saturday off. Okay, 3 days. I have 3 days off. I should go home. But when you get called on Wednesday, say you don't land back into your base till like 9 p.m. at night. Well, how many flights are going to your wherever you live at 9 o'clock at night? So if you can't get home that night, then that means you have to leave Wednesday to get home. So technically, you get home, say Wednesday, Thursday. So you get home on Thursday now, but you're off Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Well, Thursday you're gonna spend all day probably washing and cleaning and doing, if you have kids, keeping up with them, schoolwork, what have you. If you got a husband, you're gonna have to take care of him and baby him. Friday, same thing. You're tired because you just worked a 3-day, and flying takes a toll on your body. So you might want to sleep because you're tired. And then you got to go back to work on Sunday. So that means you need to go back to your base on Saturday. You don't want to take the last flight out on Saturday because what if that flight cancels? What if it's weather? So it is a job. So technically you are only home 2 days, right? So you need to plan. You have to actually sit down, put your radar app on your phone, look at the weather, see what the weather is like. Okay, I'm based in Houston. No, I'm based in Dallas, but I live in Houston. Or I'm based in Dallas, but I live in LA. I need to check the weather in Dallas. I need to check the weather in LA. And I need to look at the weather in between those two cities to see if something going on. I need to look at the weather channel. Is a polar vortex coming through here? Is a hurricane about to brew? What's going on, so that I'll know if this is a good week for me to fly home, or if I need to sit still somewhere because this weather is going to mess up my flight home. Not my commute, but my trip home. You got to look at all those aspects of, is it a good time for you to get home? I've taken several phone calls from people who are trying to get back to their base, and one particular instance, and then I'm gonna let you go. New hire, first year. I told her the same thing I'm telling you all. Don't be trying to run home to see your man when you got 2 days off sometime, because it ain't gonna always work. And whatever you do, don't try to take the last flight out because it's 500 seats available. So she did just that, right? She goes home because he was tripping and he hadn't seen her and he wanted her to come home. So she spends all day trying to commute, get home to see him. Then she really only had 1 day to spend with him. Then she had to leave to come back. So then she looked up the flights. She said, oh, there's about 4 or 5 flights tomorrow. I can just stay another day and I'll just take the last flight out the next day. The last flight out, 7 p.m. and it's 100 and something empty seats. I can get on that flight. So I just happened to be texting her and I was like, so you at the airport? And she was like, no, my flight is not till 7 something or whatever. And I was like, do you know that there's bad weather going there, right? Did you look at the weather report? Well, no. I was like, they canceled that flight. That flight is canceled. She was like, what? I was like, you didn't set up the alert? Did you check in? Did you get an alert? Any of that? And then she said, let me call you back. Well, we were texting. So she said, let me go do something. And then she called me and she was like, oh my God, they canceled my flight. And she was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get, I think she was based in MSP at the time. I don't know how I'm gonna get, she was in Houston, she's trying to get to MSP. I don't know how I'm gonna get to MSP, what other way can I get there? I was like, I don't know. I know Delta flies there, but that flight is canceled. You're gonna have to probably see who's flying where. And I think she tried to go from Houston to Louisiana, to somewhere else to MSP. I know it was gonna ship, and it was already late. So she gets to Louisiana, she misses that flight by like a minute. So then she had to wait for that flight. So then she catches the flight to Louisiana, and I think she had to go to, was it Detroit? So I think it was Detroit. I could be mistaken, but wherever it was, if it wasn't Detroit, she gets out of Louisiana, then she gets to the next place, and guess what? Canceled. So she's spending the night in Detroit, and she's on call the next day at 9 a.m. She had to spend the night in the airport. She couldn't get out. Then that morning came, and I'm calling her saying if she made it, on her trip or whatever. She did not get to MSP that next day until 9 p.m., after 9 p.m. that night because of weather. And when flights are delayed and canceled, it's a trickle-down effect, and you can't get on. She was lucky that they did not call her and use her. She was on reserve from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and they did not use her. And she didn't call them, and I told her, I was like, hey, you're on probation. You need to call and just use one of your emergencies, because if they call you and you answer your phone and they have a trip for you and you're not there, it is a SAD, and you can't get a SAD because you're on probation. But she took a chance and they didn't use her. But it was a lesson, and she never did that again. So you never want to take or try to take the last flight out because you don't know what's going to happen. And if there's weather, not just, it could be 113 degrees outside your window, just nice and beautiful, pretty, breezy weather. But that don't mean it's like that in between where you're going. So you have to know what's happening out there because it's a trickle down effect. Your plane, the plane that you're about to get on, could be coming from somewhere that has bad weather, and so that plane is delayed. So it's a lot of aspects that you got to look into for commuting. So people put on social media, oh, just commute. Oh, you can commute. You don't have to, move. You don't have to. You just get a crash pad and commute. It's not that easy. Oh, just drop, get your base where you get a line, and then drop all your trips in that base and then pick up at home. It's not that easy. It's not that simple, especially when you have to build up the level of seniority for years to be able to get to that point to where you can drop a trip and pick up. I know flight attendants that do it. They live here, they're based somewhere else. They get their schedule. They're able to drop those trips and they pick up where they live. But guess what? They've been flying for umpteen years and they earn that seniority so they can do that. Us little peons, new, coming in, So don't let somebody fool you and tell you and sell you the old okey doke and make it seem like it's all glamorous and easy. It's not that easy to do. So, with that being said, again, good luck. Welcome to the family. Hopefully, we'll get to meet. I hope I didn't say anything discouraging. This was my truth. This company is amazing. The people behind the scenes are amazing. Crew support is amazing. Scheduling is amazing. In-flight is amazing. We have some wonderful leads. So, no one wants you to fail. Everyone here wants you to be successful. It's up to you to be successful. So, good night, everyone, and good luck.